This could be good for me. Lately I was feeling like I need a purpose. But when you talk to me, give me the impression that I won't scratch your surface. And I could walk for days, searching for your praise. But is it even there to find?
Quiet folds of a distant valley, where even the mountains bowed in reverence to the silence, the sage wandered, not in search of shelter, but of memory. The land here bore no battle scars, yet it grieved as if war had passed through. There were no cries of orphans, yet the wind wept like a mother without sons. It was not destruction that haunted the valley, it was something deeper, a fracture that had never been named. Beneath an ancient olive tree, whose roots spread wide but whose fruit had long since vanished, sat a man with his head bowed. His back was straight, his posture noble, but his spirit was bent by a sorrow that clung to his chest like a forgotten song. One hand pressed softly over his ribs, as though remembering something once whole. The sage approached. His robe, woven from dusk and prayer, moved like a shadow made of silence. He said nothing at first, but the man felt his presence. He did not look up. "I do not need comfort," the man said, voice low. "I have made peace with pain." The sage sat beside him. "Peace with pain is not the same as healing." The man inhaled slowly. "She was not just my wife. She was my rib. I say that not as poetry, I say it as truth. Formed from me, fashioned by him. She was not beneath me, nor above me, she was beside me. We walked together, built dreams together, whispered sacred things in the night. But now," his voice trailed off, carried away by the wind. "Now," he continued, "she lives as if she was never carved from covenant. She says freedom is found in forgetting, that she must redefine herself without me, that the body was a cage and the breath that once sheltered her now stifles." The sage closed his eyes. "A rib that is fractured," he said, "was never meant to remain outside the body. It aches when exposed. It forgets its rhythm. It hardens in exile. It was sculpted for shelter, not separation, crafted beneath the heartbeat, not beyond it." The man nodded, tears resting just behind his eyes. "She says I silenced her, that I became too quiet, too rigid, but I was carrying the weight of our calling. I thought strength meant restraint. I did not know that silence, when misunderstood, becomes distance. She began to wander not with feet, but with spirit, until one day she sought comfort in the presence of another." He clenched his fists, not in anger, but in ache. "I did not curse her. I did not drag her name through the dust. I only withdrew. I laid down the altar we had built in prayer, and now I sit here, where the wind remembers our vows better than she does." The sage reached into his satchel and drew out a strip of cloth. It was white, but weathered, stitched with symbols in the language of the unseen. "Do you know what this is?" he asked. The man shook his head. "This is the cloth used by priests when binding wounds upon warriors, not to stop the bleeding, but to remind the wounded that their bodies can still hold together. The cloth does not pretend the scar's not there. It simply honors the story." He placed the cloth in the man's hand. "You are not cursed for still aching," the sage continued. "You are sacred because you remember. And if she cannot return, then let your body grow strong around the place where she once belonged, not to erase her, but to prove that the divine can still dwell in unfinished temples." The man looked at the cloth, then at the tree. "Why does love break?" he asked. "If it was built on covenant?" The sage answered, "Because love is not a promise kept by time. It is a discipline guarded by sacrifice. And discipline is not romantic. It is the soil from which sacredness grows. She wanted joy without the altar. You wanted covenant without conflict. Neither is complete." The sage rose. "And yet," he said, "there is still life. Not because the rib returns, but because the breath within you still speaks." From behind the tree, 2 children emerged, a boy with braided hair and eyes like stormlight, and a girl clutching a carved wooden flute. They looked not at the sage, but at the man. "They are hers too," the man whispered. "They are yours," the sage corrected. "They are the altar that still stands." The children approached. The man opened his arms. They entered without hesitation. The sage walked away slowly, but before disappearing into the veil of twilight, he turned and asked, "So, traveler, when the rib wanders and forgets its origin, will you curse the ache it leaves behind, or will you become the kind of man whose heart grows strong enough to carry the sacred even in
Lately
absence?"
I was feeling like I need a purpose. But when you talk to me, give me the impression that I won't scratch your surface. And I could walk for days, searching for your breath.